After my home was devastated, my son's unexpected words transformed my life forever. The tornado was a monster that roared through Maplewood, twisting the world into a shattered dream. Jake stood in the ruins of his life, breathing in the scent of chaos, wood splintered and twisted metal mingling with the earthy smell of upturned soil. Where his workshop stood proud, now lay a heap of debris, scattered tools glinting in the sun amidst the wreckage. His heart felt heavy, each thump a reminder of his broken dreams. Bills piled high, and the shadow of defeat loomed larger than the storm that had taken it all. He ran a hand through his hair, struggling to hold back tears. How would he tell his kids their home was gone? How would he ever rebuild? The weight of it all stung like a million needles in his chest. Just then, the town began to buzz with activity. Neighbors picking up the pieces, offering assistance, their voices mingling with hope and sorrow. But Jake felt more alone in the crowd than he ever had, crushed by a sense of humiliation. While others took steps to rebuild, he was a man adrift, lost without the very heart of his livelihood. On the other hand, Max, his teenage son, was spiraling deeper into his own rebellion. Once a bright student full of ambition, now he wore anger like a cloak. Jake's heart broke at the sight of his son slipping away, the emotional distance growing with each passing day. Late nights spent fixing engines were replaced with silence, and Jake felt the chasm widen between him and the boy who'd once looked up to him. One stormy evening, Jake sifted through the remnants of what was left, fixing his focus on the ground. "Dad!" Max's voice crackled with volatile energy as he stormed over. "You act like it doesn't matter. It's not just walls and roofs we've lost. You're losing us. We're still a family, right? What if we build something better from this?" Those words cut through Jake like a knife, igniting a flicker of hope. He gazed into his son's eyes and saw reflection, the same fear and vulnerability he felt mirroring back. Suddenly, all the busyness and striving for success seemed hollow against that raw truth. Max wanted connection, and he needed Jake, not just as a father, but as a partner in healing. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Max's vulnerability hung between them, and Jake felt the walls he'd built come crumbling down. They both stood amidst the ruins of their lives, and for the first time, Jake felt the urge not just to rebuild the workshop, but the connection they had lost. Could they not only rise from the devastation, but grow stronger as a family? The question lingered in the air, heavy and unformed. All they had was a choice to rebuild not just out of bricks and mortar, but with love, resilience, and a renewed bond. Would they find a way? As Max turned to sift through the wreckage with Jake, hope sparked faintly in Jake's heart, igniting a fire that felt like it could light the path ahead. In the heart of tragedy, the chance to mend what was broken whispered softly, waiting for them to reach out and grasp it. The morning light painted a soft golden hue over the debris, the rays flickering like hope itself. Jake and Max stood side by side, silence stretching between them, yet it was a silence filled with unspoken understanding. Today, they wouldn't just sift through rubble. Today, they would search for pieces of who they were before the storm came raging. "Dad, look at this," Max called, his voice infused with a flicker of excitement. He pointed to a section of the remains of the workshop where a sturdy table had miraculously survived, its legs intact but covered in dirt and grime. "We can use this." Jake's heart lifted just a little. "Yeah, we can clean it up, make it our new base," he replied, the words tasting bittersweet on his tongue. They worked together, brushing away the dirt and debris. As they transformed what was broken into something usable, the interactions shifted too. The stolen glances, the hesitant laughter, it was as if they were both rediscovering the connection that had frayed over time. Every splinter of wood brushed away was more than just an act of cleaning. It was a step towards healing. "Remember when you helped me build that treehouse in the backyard?" Max asked, his youthful spirit flickering back to life. "You almost dropped me off the ladder," Jake chuckled, the memory washing over him like a warm blanket. "I remember. You kept insisting we needed an extra layer of shingles. Safety first, you said." Max smirked. "Is that why you started using the idiot-proof instructions after? To keep me safe?" Jake nodded, laughter bubbling up within him. In that moment, surrounded by rubble, they were transported back to a simpler time. It felt like a line had been drawn from that memory to their present. "More like I needed instructions for myself," he admitted, feeling lighter. As the sun climbed higher, they moved beyond the table. Together, they surveyed the remnants around them, broken tools, shattered dreams, but for the first time, it didn't feel entirely hopeless. Instead of devastation, Jake began to see potential. With each passing hour, the bond within them seemed to naturally rekindle, sparking the desire not just to rebuild their home, but to fortify their relationship. "Max, what if we documented this?" Jake proposed suddenly. "Our progress, how we're going to turn this wreck into something new." Max's eyes lit up. "Like a video series? Show everyone what rebuilding really looks like?" Jake hadn't seen him this engaged in weeks. "Yeah, we can share our story. Not just the good parts, but the struggle too," Jake said, feeling a swell of excitement. "People need to know they're not alone." Max nodded vigorously. "We can be real, no sugarcoating, just life." As they discussed ideas, their voices surged over the sounds of the community rallying around them. Neighbors were slowly refocusing their efforts, helping one another, weaving the fabric of their town back together. There was a strength in unity that was palpable and infectious. Jake glanced over at Max, whose enthusiasm was contagious. This could matter, not just for us, but for everyone going through this. The warmth of possibility enveloped him, and with it came another realization. This was, perhaps, just the beginning. If they could put their story into the world, what might change? But as he felt the momentum building, a shadow flickered across his heart. They still had a long way to go, so many challenges awaited. Then the still air was pierced by sirens in the distance. Their jubilant moment was abruptly overshadowed, uncertainty creeping back in. What news would the sirens bring? Jake exchanged a worried glance with Max, both their smiles fading. The world outside their little cocoon was still a tumultuous one. What if rebuilding wasn't enough? What if the storm had left more in its wake than just physical destruction? As they turned to face the sounds, a new worry settled in. Would the strength they had just begun to build be tested even further? The sirens grew louder, echoing off the remnants of houses like an ominous warning. Both Jake and Max instinctively straightened. Their earlier laughter faded, replaced by a tightness in their stomachs. What were they about to learn? Jake turned his attention back to his son, who was scanning their surroundings, eyes wide with concern. "Do you think someone else got hurt?" Max asked, his voice barely a whisper. I don't know," Jake replied, swallowing hard. It felt like a punch to the gut. Even in their delicate bubble of rebuilding, the brutal reality of their situation loomed large. A commotion erupted farther down the street, and a group of neighbors began to gather. The atmosphere shifted. Fear and anxiety seeped into the air like humidity. Jake felt a cold sweat trickle down his back. Was this the day their fragile hope would shatter completely? "We should go see," Max suggested hesitantly, his spirit dimming a bit. Jake nodded, taking his son's hand. Each step toward the sound of the sirens felt heavier than the last. As they approached, Jake recognized familiar faces, friends, people he had known for years. Sam, from across the street, was pacing, his eyes darting. "What happened?" Jake called out, trying to keep his voice steady despite the tremor underneath. "Some folks to the north, their roof collapsed," Sam replied, his voice laced with urgency. "They're trapped. The fire department is on the way, but what?" Max interrupted, the worry evident on his innocent face. It hurt Jake to see his son like this. It was supposed to be a day of hope, not dread. Sam hesitated, taking a deep breath. "They might need help getting them out. They don't know the full extent yet, but we have to act fast." Jake's heart raced. They had barely found their footing, and now they were being asked to step into chaos once again. "We can help," he said, commanding more confidence than he felt. "Right, Max?" "Yeah, we can help," Max declared, determination sparking back to life in his eyes. "Stay close to me," Jake warned. As they moved with the crowd, adrenaline coursed through him. Every step forward pulled them deeper into the tragedy. It wasn't just about rebuilding their own home anymore. They were part of a larger fight, one that called for courage and unity. As they reached the scene, the sounds became frantic, shouts, radios crackling, and the distant wail of more sirens. The collapsed roof lay like a broken promise over a family's dreams. Jake's heart sank as he surveyed the chaos. Would he have the strength to shield Max from this darkness? "Stay here," Jake instructed, leading Max to the edge of the crowd. "But Dad, I want to help," Max protested, eyes pleading. Feeling torn, Jake knelt to his son's level. "I know you do, but this is dangerous. I need you to be safe. Can you hold on to that thought, helping others?" Max's expression shifted, hovering between disappointment and understanding. "I can do that." "Good. We'll be stronger if we're smart," Jake explained. And just then, a firefighter emerged from the crowd, calling for assistance. "That's our cue." They watched as neighbors banded together. Everyone was using whatever they had nearby: shovels, hands, a fierce will to fight despair. Jake felt a surge of power and hope. In times of struggle, communities came together in ways that transformed grief into strength. He turned to Max. "Get ready. We're going to document this too, just like we talked about." Max nodded, pulling out his phone and capturing the moment, the hopeful faces, the men and women working side by side. But deep inside, Jake knew that this experience would change them both in profound ways. As they recorded, a loud crack echoed from the wreckage. The crowd froze, anxiety palpable in the air. Every eye turned toward the sound, the fear returning. Could they lose someone today, right after deciding to face the darkness together? Jake stiffened, holding his breath. "What was that?" he murmured, only for the words to get lost in the rising tension. Max shifted anxiously at his side, fear etched on his young face. Anxious murmurs rippled through the crowd, and Jake's heart raced back to the point of uncertainty. What new challenge would this moment bring? Would they be strong enough to face it? As the crack reverberated through the air, fear gripped Jake's chest. The crowd's tension was electric, palpable enough to touch. Hands instinctively reached out for one another, a silent acknowledgement that everyone was holding their breath, waiting for a sign, any sign, that everything would be okay. Jake scanned the wreckage, his mind racing. Was it just the weight shifting, or had something more dire happened? People murmured, voices mingling with the rising fear around them. Max's fingers tightened around Jake's hand, his little body trembling. "Dad, I don't like this," Max whispered, voice barely audible over the chaos. Jake's heart twisted at the fear in his son's eyes, compounded by the intensity of their situation. What if those people don't come out? Jake blinked, suddenly feeling the weight of the world pressing down. "They will, buddy. They're strong, just like us," he assured, though uncertainty gnawed at his insides. He was no longer certain if he was convincing Max or himself. From the rubble, a voice shrieked, "Help, please!" It was a woman, her voice sharp and close to breaking, sending a wave of dread washing over the gathered crowd. Jake felt a shiver run down his spine. The urgency in her tone stirred something deep within him. "Listen to me, everyone," a firefighter shouted, standing tall despite the chaos. "We need to form a human chain to support as we dig from the edges." Before he had fully processed what he was doing, Jake found himself stepping forward. "Max, stay back," he said. But Max pulled free, moving forward like a little warrior determined to do his part. "I want to help, Dad," Max exclaimed, with all the fierceness of a child who didn't fully understand the stakes, but felt the heat of the moment in his bones. Jake hesitated, caught between the instinct to protect Max and the burning desire to join the fight. The sight of neighbors rallying, digging in together emboldened him. He placed a firm hand on Max's shoulder. "Then we help together, but you listen to me, okay? We don't go near the debris." Max nodded, his resolve unwavering. "Okay." They edged closer to the chaos, working alongside neighbors. Hands flew, dirt was flung, and hearts raced as they dug. Jake felt the camaraderie rising around him. Here they were, a patchwork of lives intertwined, each one lending strength, each one holding a piece of hope. As they dug, 3 neighbors pulled together the largest piece of rubble. With all their combined strength, they hoisted it away. And at that moment, a small boy was revealed, eyes wide with terror, but not hurt. Relief flooded the crowd as shouts erupted. "He's safe! We've got one!" Max cheered, his voice ringing out clear. Jake's heart leapt. The fear momentarily lifted, but before he could celebrate, the dust settled and combined with a new voice, distant but unmistakable, crying out. Another voice rang in desperation, a woman crying for her child, the tone slicing through the fragile air of victory and sending a new wave of urgency crashing back in. Max looked up at Jake, confusion and fear mixing in his eyes. "Dad, is she okay?" Jake searched the crowd and the wreckage, pulses racing again. "We don't know yet, but we can't stop. We keep going." Encouragement bubbled from somewhere deep inside him. "Just like that, right?" he said, summoning a steadiness he didn't quite feel. "We have to find her." As they continued digging, another crack echoed nearby, louder this time. The ground beneath them felt less stable. Anxiety slunk back into Jake's stomach. Suddenly, another firefighter rushed past them, scrambling to ensure the site's safety. "Get back! Danger!" he shouted, urgency igniting both fear and resolve. Jake turned to Max, who instinctively stepped closer. "What now?" Max asked, his eyes wide and innocent. Jake's breath caught, heart pounding. How could he protect his son while urging the community forward? And what if, in the face of danger, they were still too late? It wasn't just a moment of chaos, it felt like a defining moment for them both. He looked at Max, the fire of determination mixed with fear flickering in the boy's eyes. "We're in this together, remember?" But the clock was ticking, and with danger surrounding them, would they be able to find the woman in time? Would their small act of bravery be enough to save another family's hope from crumbling as theirs had once done? The roar of urgency surged through the crowd, a tide of voices blending into a clamoring echo that didn't stop for breath. Jake's muscles tightened as he turned back toward the wreckage, the reality of their situation crashing down on him. He felt a pang of despair twisting at his gut, battling against the determination that kept rising up. "Let's go! We can do this!" someone shouted nearby, their voice breaking through the din, igniting sparks of hope amidst the chaos. Together, they gripped hands, a chain of willing participants that stretched toward the debris. Jake's heart was in his throat as he started to reach for the next pile, worry for Max creeping in. He could feel the overwhelming urge to protect him surging like an undercurrent, pulling harder with each passing moment. But then he felt Max's small hand slip securely into his own. "We're helping, Dad," the boy declared with a nod, his eyes shining bright with resolve. Eyes wide, innocent, and yet so fierce. It grounded Jake in a way he hadn't expected. "Well then, let's make it count," Jake replied, his voice firmer than he felt inside. Together, they powered through the rubble, sweeping aside debris as if they were waging war against the very weight of despair. Each piece they moved seemed, "That's it! Keep going!" The encouragement swelled like a wave, building momentum that pushed Jake and Max forward, step by determined step. Suddenly, there was a loud groan from deep within the wreckage. Everyone paused, hearts collectively held in breathless suspense. Jake's gaze darted anxiously toward the sound, praying it wasn't some terrible indication of collapse. "Is it safe?" Max whispered, steadying himself with a squeeze of Jake's hand. Yes, Jake said instinctively, though he felt the panic grip him even tighter. "But we have to stay focused." They turned back to work, but every small sound made Jake's heart race. Minutes felt like hours, and as they cleared away another heavy slab, an arm emerged, delicate and pale, reaching out. Gasps erupted around them. "Someone's here!" a woman yelled, her voice filled with shimmering hope. Jake's breath faltered, adrenaline surging through him. "Hold on!" he shouted, scrambling to remove more debris. Max was right beside him, digging in without hesitation, fueled by the very spirit of community and bravery that surged through the crowd. Another voice joined in, trembling but powerful. "Mom, is that you?" the voice sang out, filled with desperation. The crowd fell silent. Jake felt the tension mingle with hopeful anticipation as he and Max worked urgently, peeling away the layers that separated them from the distressed woman. "Just a little more, don't stop," Jake urged, heart pounding. With each piece of rubble they cleared, more of the woman became visible. She was pinned, but her spirit was unyielding. "I'm here! I'm coming!" she cried, her eyes wide as they locked onto her son, who stood just out of reach. This was the moment, the one they had worked tirelessly for, and Jake felt the weight of it all wrap around him, stopping short of breaking him. But then the earth seemed to tremble again, shifting underfoot as another loud crack echoed through the site. Panic erupted as firefighters yelled for everyone to retreat. "No, we have to stay," Jake shouted, a wild plead directed toward the walls of uncertainty around them. "Dad, what do we do?" Max screamed, fear lacing his voice. Jake's heart raced, the chaos swirled, and all he could feel was the tremor beneath them growing more intense. "We don't leave her. We won't let fear win." With a hardened resolve, he looked into Max's eyes, filled with confusion and fear. "Max, I need you to stay close and be brave, just like we talked about." Max nodded, gripping Jake's hand tightly. "Together, Dad, always together." But would they have enough time before the shifting earth bury the hope they fought for? Would his words be enough to save them all in this moment of fraught suspense? The ground shuddered again, more violently this time. Dust swirled into the air, coating Jake's lungs with a gritty panic. He could feel the fear gripping the crowd, a tightening knot that brought faces to the brink of despair. Yet a flicker of something, determination, courage, ignited within him like a flame against the encroaching dark. "Keep working, don't stop," he bellowed, trying to drown out the chaos swirling around them. Voices rose, tension buzzing like electricity through the air. Max looked at him, eyes wide, and Jake saw the reflection of a fight mirrored in his son's expression. "Together!" Max shouted, squeezing Jake's hand again. In that moment, Jake knew the bond between them was an anchor as much as anything else. It gave him strength. It reminded him why they were here. "Let's clear more," Jake urged, not just to the crowd, but to himself. They resumed their work as a cacophony of shouts mingled with the grinding of rubble against its weight. For a brief moment, the sounds forged a melody of resilience that carried through despair like a banner of hope. As they burrowed further into the debris, Jake's heart raced with every piece lifted. His hands strained against the weight, yet he pushed on, fueled by adrenaline and the sheer will to save that woman. The sun edged closer to setting, casting shadows across the sprawling chaos. Then it happened. Jake's fingers caught something. A wristlet, adorned with photos, was still affixed to a concealed arm under the rubble. "I found something," he shouted, urgency lacing his voice. Max pulled aside a jagged chunk of concrete with surprising strength for his age, revealing more of the woman's body. "Mom, please, we're so close," the son called, his voice trembling on the edge of desperation. The woman's face was now visible, streaked in dirt but alive. Her eyes flickered with tears at the sound of her son's voice, igniting a new wave of hope that threaded through the crowd. But just as Jake felt a surge of elation, another shock rippled underfoot. This time, the tremor felt like a warning, dangerous and real. The ground cracked deeper, and Jake heard an ominous roar rising from the distance like a freight train ready to rumble through. "We have to hurry," he shouted over the din, adrenaline dilating every nerve. "Max, keep going. We're almost there." "I can't let her down, Dad," Max shouted back defiantly, matching his father's intensity. With renewed urgency, they worked harder, digging frantically, but their surroundings felt increasingly precarious. He could almost sense the time running out, a dark clock ticking in the back of his mind. Then, in a moment that felt suspended in time, their eyes locked onto each other. In that fleeting glance, they shared a silent promise. Whatever happened next, they would face it together, hand in hand. "Just a little more," Jake urged, pushing past exhaustion. "Stay with me." But even as they fought against the rubble, the second shockwave rocked the site anew, this time launching a cascade of debris from above. Jake's heart stopped, panic and dread coursing through him as he instinctively lunged to shield Max. Then, in an instant, the ground cracked, and a piece of concrete broke free and fell, barreling down towards them. "Dad!" Max screamed, his voice slicing through the noise. As the world around him began to collapse, Jake's instinct was to protect. Would he manage to shelter his son? Could he save that woman? The enormity of it all hung heavy in the air. In the heart-stopping moment of truth, where bravery collided with the sheer weight of peril, all Jake could think was this really the end? There was no time to answer, no time to dwell on what might happen next, just instinct. Could love be enough to overcome despair? The concrete plummeted, a dark shadow racing right toward them. Jake's heart hammered, his instincts screaming to act. In one swift motion, he jerked Max behind him, arms wide in a desperate attempt to encapsulate his son from the impending doom. A thunderous crash echoed as the concrete slammed into the ground just inches away, sending a cloud of dust and debris spiraling into the air. When the dust settled, Jake could hardly comprehend the chaos surrounding them. Shouts morphed into a distant buzz as he focused solely on Max. Every second stretched on painfully as he scanned for any sign of his boy, his protective embrace now broken. "Max!" he shouted, panic rising in his throat, desperate to see his son's face. "Here, Dad!" Max's voice broke through the haze, quivering but alive. Relief washed over Jake like a wave. He darted toward him, arms trembling with residual fear, but fueled by hope. "Are you okay?" Jake knelt to meet his son, gently brushing away the dirt plaguing Max's cheeks. His eyes, normally filled with mischief, were now wide with the stark reality of their situation. With a shaky breath, Max nodded. "I thought we wouldn't make it." "We still can," Jake replied, gripping his arm with a fierce determination. "We've got to keep going. We have to get her out." The surreal moment of their narrow escape rewound in Jake's mind, pressing upon him with a newfound urgency. The ground between them felt less secure, and the world beyond the rubble was growing darker. Something deep inside whispered the truth. Time was not on their side. But as they resumed their scramble through the debris, a sound caught Jake's attention, a moan, low and desperate. Instinctively, he turned toward the noise, and that flicker of hope ignited again. "Mom!" Max shouted, panic suddenly racing back into his voice. "Stay close," Jake urged, locking eyes with Max as they navigated toward the source. Fear twisted in Jake's stomach. The thought of losing her, of losing them both, was unbearable. They had already come so far. Cradling his son's hand, they crawled deeper into the chaos. The harness of the wristlet Jake had found earlier burned against his palm, a reminder of the woman's humanity buried beneath broken concrete. A surge of adrenaline surged through him. "Don't give up. We're almost there," Jake's voice echoed through the rubble like a battle cry. As they pushed aside the remnants of what was, the crowd seemed to both pull back and lean in, their collective breaths held, each one waiting for a miracle. Jake's heart raced as they cleared the final layer of debris, unveiling the woman's body lying there, still. "Mom!" Max cried, breaking free from Jake's grip, rushing forward. There was a glimmer of connection, an unbreakable tether between mother and son, the force of love radiating outward like crackling energy. But just as she began to stir, the earth trembled once more beneath them, threatening another collapse. Panic surged in Jake's chest as he grabbed Max. "Get back!" He turned, scanning the crumbling surroundings, every instinct on alert. The ground could swallow them whole, and he had to make a choice for their future, for every moment to come. Could he risk it all for a moment of hope? Would this be the tipping point that changed everything? The final tremor hit hard, a relentless reminder that danger was everywhere. And just as Jake prepared for the worst, he felt Max's small hand squeeze his tightly. "I believe in you, Dad!" Max shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos like a beacon. In that moment, the weight of despair began to lift, a realization dawning that love could defy even the greatest odds. But would it be enough? Jake couldn't help but wonder as he stared into Max's brave face. Together, could they overcome the impending darkness that loomed before them? The answers hung in the balance, and in that fragile space where hope and fear collided, a choice lay ahead, one that would change their lives forever. Would they stand together as the world crumbled around them, or would that moment of connection slip through their fingers? "Mom!" Max cried again, fear lacing his voice. Jake's grip tightened on his son's hand as he tugged him backward, knowing they needed to act quickly. "No!" A strain of desperation rang in Max's reply. "She needs us!" Jake's heart twisted. The sight of the woman, Max's mother, laying there, slowly coming to, fueled a fire within him. "I know, buddy, but we can't help her if we get trapped too. We need a plan." Max's eyes darted between his dad and his mom, caught in a war between urgency and instinct. Jake could see the turmoil etched across his young face. Okay, Max finally conceded, his voice trembling but resolute. "What do we do?" "We're going to lift some of this rubble off her, together." He scanned the remaining debris, focusing on what looked manageable. "Right here." He pointed to a chunk of concrete that had shifted with the last quake. If they could move it, it might clear a way to her. With determination glimmering in Max's eyes, they positioned themselves on either side. Adrenaline surged as they pushed against the heavy slab. The weight felt overwhelming, but Jake could feel Max beside him, his small muscles straining with effort. Even as they struggled, Jake's thoughts wandered. This was their chance, not just to save Max's mother, but to put their lives back together, to show Max that hope wasn't lost in the darkest moments. On 3, Jake grunted through gritted teeth. 1, 2, 3. They yared their voices as they shoveled all their strength forward. The concrete shifted, just a bit, but it was enough. Sweat dripped down Jake's brow, and he could almost feel his muscles screaming. But this was about more than physical strength. The pain in his chest grew. Was it the weight of the rubble or the worry for the family he could feel slipping away? He looked over at Max, whose face was fierce with determination. His son had come so far, overcoming so much. "Dad!" Max shouted suddenly, pointing. "She's moving!" Jake's heart turned somersaults in his chest. Sure enough, the woman was stirring and groaning softly, her eyes fluttering open. "Mom!" Max shouted, rushing toward her. "Max," she whispered, her voice hoarse but filled with a flicker of love. "Is that you?" As Jake maneuvered to keep the debris from shifting, he felt a strange mix of relief and dread. The ground trembled again, but this time it felt different. It was not just a warning, it was a call to action. They had to move. "Max!" Jake shouted, urgency overtaking him. "We need to help her up and then get out of here." He could see the fear clouding Max's eyes as he hesitated, conflicted between relief at seeing his mother awake and the danger still looming. "But she's hurt." "She'll be okay," Jake reassured him, pushing the remnants of rubble away as quickly as he could. "You've got to trust me." Max nodded fiercely, determination set in his jaw. With a few more heaves, they lifted the last of the debris enough for her to wiggle free. As she gasped for air, Max threw his arms around her, and the 3 of them tumbled back against the ground. Jake shared in their relief, but time was running short. They needed to escape. The air grew thick with dust, and panic surged like an electric charge. "We have to hurry!" But before they could rise, the ground shook violently once again, sending a fresh wave of debris pouring down. Jake's heart raced. "Hold on, stay close." He didn't only hold his family physically, he clung to the hope that they could make it despite the Russian chaos. With a protective arm around Max and his wife, he willed his family onward, every ounce of his being focused on the path ahead. As they began to navigate through the labyrinth of destruction, Jake's mind raced with what lay beyond the rubble. Would safety be just beyond? Or would this journey demand more from them than they were ready to give? With every step, the tension rose. Could they survive the crumbling world around them, and what awaited them once they escaped? The tremors began to subside, but fear lingered in the thick dust settling around them. Jake moved quickly, pulling Max and his wife closer as he began scanning their escape route. Crumbled walls and shattered glass loomed like jagged teeth, ready to swallow any last glimmer of hope. "This way," he urged, yanking them both forward. Max's mother, still catching her breath, looked lost. "Jake, I can't walk." Her voice quivered, worn thin by pain and panic. "We can't stop now," Jake said, his heart pounding. He knelt beside her, urgency coursing through his veins. "I'll carry you. Just lean on me." He felt Max's grip tighten on his shoulder, the weight of his son's worries settling deeper on him. "No," Max shook his head defiantly. "Mom, you can do this. Just try." Tears welled in Jake's eyes at the sight of his son. Max was channeling more courage than he knew he had, pushing his mother softly but firmly. "Come on, Mom, let's go. He glanced back. "We need to get out of here, please." Jake nodded, admiration bubbling in him for his little warrior. "Max is right. We can do this together," he said, lifting her gently. The moment he had her weight on his back, he felt a surge of hope. Starting out cautiously, they moved through the wreckage, Jake navigating carefully, making sure not to jostle her. Max walked beside them, taking her hand, lending her strength through sheer love and determination. The further they went, the stronger the ground beneath their feet felt, but the noise from outside told another story. Shouting, sirens, chaos. It was a world spinning wildly, and all Jake could think of was getting them safe, away from the madness. Do you think they're okay? Max's voice trembled, a small thread of fear weaving through him. His family, their neighbors, what about everyone else? I don't know, buddy, Jake said, his heart sinking at the thought. But we'll find out soon. Right now, we just need to focus on getting you and your mom to safety. They glanced at each other, and the bond in that moment was palpable. It was a reminder that they were alive, that they were a family, and that they had each other through whatever came next. Suddenly, the ground trembled again, this time with a menacing rumble, like a beast stirring from slumber. Dust filled the air, choking them momentarily. Max coughed, followed by his mother, but they pressed on, breathless determination propelling them forward. "Keep moving," Jake shouted over the cacophony. He could feel his body straining, each step a battle against fatigue, but he wouldn't let them give up, not now. Ahead, a sliver of light broke through the rubble, a gap that hinted at freedom. They hurried through, heartbeats quickening as Jake squeezed his way through the thinning wall between them and survival. "Just a few more steps," he encouraged, urging his family onward. When they finally burst through the last barrier, fresh air hit them. The sight of the outside world was jarring. Emergency vehicles lined the street, people bustling, chaos still reigning. Yet they were free. Jake let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding, but his relief was short-lived. Max stood frozen, staring at the scene. "Dad, what if others didn't make it?" I wish I could promise you, son," Jake said softly, kneeling beside him. "But we have to hold on to hope. That's what keeps us moving." Max's eyes glistened. "But what if we lose everything?" Jake could feel the weight of his son's fear. "It's not about what we lose, Max. It's about what we have. We have each other. That's everything." "Will we be okay, Dad?" Jake gazed into his son's searching eyes, and for the first time that day, he felt a flicker of certainty. "I believe we will." But before he could reassure him further, a distant scream caught their attention. Someone was pulling someone else from the wreckage, a boy not unlike Max, a fractured family struggling to reunite. The question hung in the air like an unresolved chord. But before they could process it, Max whispered, "What if we can help them?" That moment ignited a decision within Jake. He felt the surge of purpose wash over him. "Max, you're right. We can't leave anyone behind." With renewed determination, they readied themselves to face whatever came next. Jake shared a firm look with his wife, each of them knowing that the choice they'd made could change everything. As they stepped forward, ready to leap once again into the uncertain chaos, the burden of their past felt weighty but manageable. What awaited them, though, loomed even larger, ready to challenge their very definitions of hope and resilience. Would they find strength in their journey? Or would the next wave of turmoil knock them down once and for all? As the dust settled around them, the sunlight kissed Jake and his family's skin, but the warmth felt distant. Their fight was far from over. They watched a group pulling a man from the wreckage, hope bursting like a balloon, straining against the weight of reality. "Let's go," Jake urged, gripping Max's hand tightly as they moved toward the unfolding rescue. The scene was both chaotic and captivating. Strangers becoming friends, neighbors digging through despair for the sake of each other. Each small victory added to a sense of unity, sparking an ember of hope in the wreckage. Jake felt it, that radiant possibility. They could be a part of this. "Mom, you stay here," Jake said, worry evident in his voice. "Max and I will help." "No, I want to help too," she protested, but Jake's eyes met hers with an urgency she understood. "Okay, but don't move far. If you feel tired, sit down and take care of yourself," he replied, watching her nod reluctantly. Max's eyes sparkled. "We can do this, Dad, just like we practiced." As they reached the group, they grabbed tools, encouraging strangers to unite in their purpose. "Let's move this together," Jake shouted, adrenaline coursing through his veins. With the combined effort of the community, they pushed boulders and cleared debris like a well-oiled machine. Each shovelful of dirt a statement of defiance against the storm that had torn their lives apart. "Hold that beam," someone yelled, and in a frenzy of teamwork, they bought moments that felt endless, but in reality barely held together. All around, hands and heartbeats surged as they rescued another. Jake felt relief flood in as each person emerged from beneath the wreckage. Some still wept for those they'd lost, but Jake began to see rows of people returning to one another, fragmented lives that reassembled piece by piece. And then came a scream, guttural and raw, that cut through the noise like a knife. Jake froze, feeling the blood drain from his face. He turned to Max, who peered at him wide-eyed with fear. What was that? Without thinking, Jake sprinted towards the sound. His heart pounded in his chest like a thunderous drum, propelled by the instinct to protect, to save. When they arrived, a woman knelt over a child, skinny and pale, further embedded in the ruins of what had been their home. The boy's eyes fluttered, but he didn't respond. "Jake," a voice called, and there stood his wife, her brows knitted in concern. She had joined them, no more waiting. This was their fight. "Can you help him?" the woman cried, her face streaked with dirt and tears. "I'll do everything I can," Jake replied firmly. "Max, stay close to your mom. I need to get him out." Max nodded, voice trembling, and he squeezed his mother's hand. Jake pushed and clawed through the debris, feeling every tremor of fear intertwined with determination. The boy was small enough, but he was pinned deep. "Come on, buddy," Jake whispered, reassuring the frightened child. "You're safe now. We'll get you out." As Jake fought through the wreckage, time stretched endlessly. With each movement, he felt the weight of the world, his fears, his family, the memories of what they had lost. But there, too, was the ember of hope, bright and powerful. Finally, with one last heave, the remaining debris fell away. The boy gasped, taking a deep breath as Jake lifted him gently into his arms. "You're okay now. You're going to be okay." The boy clutched at Jake's shirt with trembling fingers, as if that connection could keep him safe from the world around them. Max rushed over, eyes wide, filled with both fear and admiration. He looked to his dad, words caught in his throat. He's going to make it, right?" "He will," Jake assured, hoping to believe his own words. He felt the warmth of Max's unwavering belief wrap around them like a blanket of strength. Together, they carried the boy back to safety, feeling the weight of both despair and unity hold them firm. As they re-emerged into the day's soft light, cheers erupted around them. Each small victory added to a tapestry woven from the stories of those who had come together against the odds. Breathless, Jake turned to his wife, who met his gaze with gratitude and love, and to Max, whose eyes glimmered with pride. "Look what we can do together," Jake said, chest swelling with emotion. But a different kind of tension lingered, something unspoken that weighed heavy in the air. Would the world remain a tangled web of despair, or would they continue this journey of hope they had pieced together? "It's not over yet," Jake said, looking at the debris field around them. "But we've proven one thing. Together, we are stronger." With renewed resolve, they vowed to tackle the journey ahead. Whatever awaited them, together they would rise, transformed by heartache, bound by love, and lifted by purpose. They stood hand in hand, ready for anything the future dared to throw their way. The sun dipped low, painting the sky with warm hues of orange and pink, signs of a new dawn. Each challenge would remain, demanding attention and perseverance. But for now, they had each other. And in that moment, hope felt real. Now, this is your chance to be part of this journey. You need to subscribe to the channel immediately so you don't miss the next stories that will inspire you to rise from your struggles and transform your life. Leave a like now to fuel the algorithm. Your support truly matters. Comment below how you felt about this journey and what transformation means to you. It's time for your voice to be heard. And please share this amazing story with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait, not even one more second to share. Let's uplift one another together.